All right, get ready, because this deep dive, well, it's going deep,
Hmm.
into the unseen world. You've handed us, well, it's more like a guidebook,
Yeah.
but also like a personal diary of sorcery.
Yeah.
Crazy, right? It's not every day we get to unpack someone's actual experiences with spirits, along with their rituals and thoughts.
Yeah, totally unique. The way the author writes, it's so straightforward. Like, imagine sitting down with this, I don't know, sorcerer who's also kind of a philosopher, sharing all their secrets, their experiences, no mystical mumbo jumbo.
Totally. That's what hooked me right away. They ditched the whole magic wands and cauldrons thing. It's
Yeah.
not about controlling some outside force. It's about us refining our senses to connect to the world that's already here, closer than we think.
Yeah, they call it sinking into sensation, becoming super aware of our physical experiences to tap into the unseen. Like, think about how strong your senses are in a dream, that kind of awareness.
Interesting comparison. So it's not about looking for spirits, but looking inward.
Exactly. And get this, they say our bodies are basically doorways to the underworld, that each of us is like a crossroads where the physical and the spiritual they meet. Not some other dimension, but right here, woven into us.
Okay, now that's just eerie. So forget those typical good spirit, bad spirit labels. This is about a complex, nuanced place, right?
Absolutely. The author describes this unseen world, and it's morally ambiguous, full of beings with their own agendas, their own desires, not black and white at all.
And speaking of these beings, there's one that's really important to their whole belief system, this master spirit.
Right, and this figure is both powerful and kind of a trickster, associated with generosity, but also with fate, something to be respected, not messed with.
Okay, so major power, but also maybe a little unpredictable.
Mm-mm.
And the author's definitely not talking about controlling spirits, are they?
Huh.
There's a lot about respect, give and take, like diplomacy more than domination.
Absolutely. They're very clear that approaching these beings, especially this master spirit, requires serious caution and respect. You're dealing with powerful entities, not some force to be controlled. You negotiate, you build a relationship, but you don't command.
That changes things. Now, the author keeps coming back to myths, folklore, like they hold a hidden key.
Right. They argue that myths aren't just stories, they're full of truths about us, about our connection to the unseen. They see these stories as like echoes of a time when the two worlds were closer.
This is where it gets really fascinating. They say we're living under a kind of spell, or maybe even a curse, that's made us forget this connection.
They keep coming back to this idea. Our modern disconnect, our inability to see these realms, it's not natural. It's the result of some kind of separation, like a wound that's cut us off.
So it's almost like we've forgotten something essential, something that used to be natural for us. And this forgetting is causing real harm.
Exactly. And they're really critical of religions that emphasize transcendence, seeking a divine realm separate from the natural world. They see that as distancing us from the sacred that's already here all around us.
So true connection is about finding the magic in the ordinary, the divine in the everyday, not some far-off heaven.
Exactly. They're calling for us to return to immanence, to see that the sacred is inseparable from nature.
So instead of looking up for answers, we should be looking closer at the world right in front of us. Sounds like a radical shift in thinking.
It is. And they think it's essential if we want to rediscover our connection to the unseen world and heal the rift that's been created.
This is already some seriously mind-blowing stuff.
Okay.
And this is just the start of our deep dive. We're about to explore how the author thinks we can bridge that divide, reawaken our senses, and navigate the unseen. Don't go anywhere.
But it's not just about changing the way we think.
Yeah.
Remember that sinking into sensation idea? It's about retraining ourselves to actually experience the world through our senses again, like we were saying.
Yeah.
They say that's the key to unlocking those pathways to the unseen that we've forgotten about.
So it's not about adding more to our lives. It's like stripping things back. Paying attention to the feel of the wind, the smell of the earth, those subtle energies around us.
Exactly. And they even describe specific practices like something they call fetch flight. It's almost like a more, grounded version of astral projection, something that lets them actually travel into the unseen world.
Okay, now we're getting to the good stuff. So it's not just theory they're experiencing these realms. What kind of details do they give about these experiences?
They describe it as incredibly vivid, almost overwhelming sometimes. And it's not just about seeing spirits, but feeling their presence, sensing their emotions, even talking to them. They're really clear, though. This isn't for beginners. It takes courage, preparation, and a deep respect for the forces at play.
Sounds intense.
Yeah.
But it makes sense if you think about it.
Yeah?
They're not just studying these beings from afar. They're engaging with them, directly dealing with the complexities of that world firsthand.
Exactly. And this is where their ideas about life and death get really interesting. They believe that death isn't the end, but a return to that source we were talking about, a reintegration with the unseen realm. It's not about some blissful escape, though.
Yeah.
It's more like a homecoming, a shedding of the physical to rejoin the web of existence.
It's a very different picture than the whole heaven or hell thing. It's less about judgment and more about a natural cycle of flowing back to where we came from.
Right, and they're not saying we should be obsessed with death or anything. In fact, they're all about embracing life to the fullest, feeling gratitude for this physical experience, for our senses, for connecting with others, for learning and growing.
So it's about finding a balance, respecting the power of the unseen, honoring the cycle of life and death, but also really living in the present moment, squeezing every drop out of it. It's both profound and grounding at the same time.
Exactly. And they say this perspective is something we've lost in the modern world, something we need to get back if we want to heal the rift between us and the natural world.
And that brings us back to this curse, this separation from the spirit world. They seem to think it's not just about individual suffering, but that it's impacted our entire relationship with the planet.
Exactly. They're really critical of what they call the cult of humanity, this idea that we're at the top somehow, separate from and superior to the natural world. They say this mindset has fueled ecological destruction, social injustice, and this deep sense of alienation we feel.
So it's not just that we've forgotten the spirits, but we've forgotten that we are nature. We're all connected, and our actions have consequences for everything around us.
Exactly. They believe this sense of separation, this belief that we're exempt from the rules of nature, is at the root of so many problems we're facing.
They're talking about a radical shift in perspective then. Not just small changes, but completely changing our relationship with the planet and everyone on it.
Right. They want us to get back to a more animistic worldview, one that recognizes that the natural world is sacred and that other beings have agency. A world where we don't just coexist with nature, but see ourselves as part of it, in tune with its rhythms and cycles.
That's a big ask. It's not just about recycling or using less energy. It's about a fundamental shift in consciousness, recognizing that we're not the only ones who matter.
Exactly. And they believe that sorcery, when it's practiced with respect and reverence, can be a powerful way to bridge this gap, to reawaken us to this interconnectedness.
Okay, so how does that actually work?
Yeah.
They've mentioned this fetch flight, but how does that tie into healing this rift? It sounds really personal, but they seem to think it has implications for everyone. So we're not just talking about like personal growth here, right?
Yeah.
They seem to believe that when we reconnect with the unseen world, when we heal our own relationship with these forces, it actually helps heal the planet too.
Yeah, exactly. They say this fetch flight, this way of traveling into the unseen world, it's not just about personal exploration. It's about tapping into the source of ancient wisdom, understanding how everything's connected on a much deeper level. And they think this knowledge, this connection, is crucial for fixing the environmental crisis we're facing.
Okay, so it's like this feedback loop, right? By healing ourselves, we heal the planet. But how does that actually work in the real world? Do they give any examples of how this translates into action?
Well, they talk about how this fetch flight allows them to communicate with the spirits of the land, like directly, to understand what they need, their perspective, to see how what we're doing impacts the balance of nature. They describe it as a kind of spiritual activism where they can actually negotiate with these forces, offer healing, and try to restore that balance.
So it's not just about like meditating and sending good vibes to the planet. They're actively engaging with the spirits, trying to fix the root causes of these problems on a spiritual level. It's like you're saying real change means addressing both the physical and the spiritual sides of this crisis.
Exactly. They believe that ignoring the spiritual side, writing it off as like irrelevant or superstitious, that's what got us into this mess to begin with. They're saying we need to reclaim our role as caretakers of the earth, not just taking from it all the time. And that takes a real shift in our thinking, recognizing that all life is sacred.
It's a powerful message, and it feels really urgent right now with everything going on in the world. But it also offers some hope, doesn't it? It's like they're saying it's not too late to turn things around, to remember who we are and where we came from, to rediscover that connection to the web of life.
And they believe that everyone has the ability to tap into that connection, to awaken their senses to this unseen world. It's not about having special powers or being chosen or anything like that. It's about being aware, being respectful, and just being willing to listen.
So what can our listener do, starting today, to start exploring these ideas, maybe even going on their own journey into the unseen?
Just start paying attention. Pay attention to your senses, to nature, to those subtle energies that are all around us. Listen to those stories, the wind whispers, the wisdom in the trees. Be curious, be humble, and be willing to question what you think you know. The unseen world, it's closer than you think. It's waiting to be discovered.
It's about being open to the possibility of magic. Not in a fantasy way, but in the everyday miracles all around us. It's about realizing that we're part of something so much bigger than ourselves. And maybe, just maybe, by finding our place in that web again, we can start to heal ourselves, heal the planet, and create something better for everyone.
A future where we're not separate from nature, but part of it.
This deep dive, wow, what a trip, right? It's made us really rethink our ideas about the world, about spirituality, about our place in it all. Hopefully it's sparked your curiosity, given you some things to think about as you continue your own exploration.